Hey Joe,
Yes, Del.
you want to see an awesome movie?
Always.
It's got fighting. And spaceships. And a skull.
But there is one thing that will never change. Who we are.
Awesome, what is it?
Not this movie.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome once again to the couch. As always, I am Joe. With me today is Del from the NPCCAST. You can find them at NPCCAST.com. You're a professional talker-abouter of things.
I am a award-nominated talker-abouter of things.
Mostly games.
Yeah. Board games, card games.
Tabletop games.
Yeah.
Somehow, these guys managed to keep this show interesting.
So, we just rewatched an amazing movie that shouldn't exist when it did. Is that where we cut this?
Trailer, yeah.
In the future, technology will allow us to explore new worlds and change the way we live like never before. But there is one thing that will never change. Who we are. He was programmed from birth to be part of the most invincible army in history. But like all scientific advancements,
They're practically manufactured using DNA profiles.
he was destined to become obsolete.
More endurance, better hand-eye. It's a whole different standard.
What do we do with him?
Waste disposal. His training had prepared him for anything except this.
So,
We made a joke about this in the cold open.
yeah.
That's not the movie this is!
Not at all. And they got Hal Douglas to come in and straight up do one man.
In a world.
No, in a world, Jack.
What do you mean, no, in a world?
This movie got sold so badly to everyone.
Today's episode of Sofa Justice Warriors is entitled Soldier, Good on Purpose, and Worse Off for It.
So, a bit of background about Soldier. Paul W.S. Anderson,
Of Mortal Kombat fame.
yep, he had just done Mortal Kombat and Event Horizon, and Hollywood's like, okay, those were surprise hits. Mortal Kombat was the #1 movie in America for a week. Let's try making a movie about awesome space stuff.
And then that didn't happen.
No. David Peoples, the guy who wrote Blade Runner and Unforgiven.
This takes place in the Blade Runner universe. This is a Blade Runner sequel.
It's a side quote, really.
Yeah, side quote.
David Peoples, who wrote the, I can't stress enough that he wrote Unforgiven, which is the anti-Western, which is the Western about how bad being in a Western is for you.
Who's the fella owns this shithole?
Wrote this as well, and it has a 10% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Justifiably so. When you have an ad that shows you this, and then you get a thoughtful meditation on leaving veterans behind and post-traumatic stress disorder, you're gonna be a little mad. So who is this movie for?
I don't know. So, the quick plot beats, we open the movie on a baby. A crying, innocent, newborn baby. And that is really interesting because babies represent life.
Yes.
Represent new life and life affirming, we will go on.
We should mention that the opening, 20 minutes of this movie have no dialogue at all.
A soldier shows no mercy. Mercy is weakness.
It's just the montage of him becoming a soldier.
Yeah, we find out that baby becomes Todd.
Kurt Russell is Todd.
Orders. A soldier lives to him.
And he is a sergeant in army. And we show him as a child learning in this really extra dystopian. They got an extra dollop of dystopia on top of this.
Yes.
Where they show them, they make the kids watch 3 dogs team up and kill a hog. which, is teaching them that soldiers work together and can accomplish victories.
Somebody read 1984 before they wrote
Yeah,
this.
and The Long Walk.
Yes.
And we show him becoming a monster, and that's where we get the stuff from the trailer where it's him rampaging through cities and just...
Which happens in the opening 10 minutes of the movie.
Yeah. You've seen everything in the trailer.
And we're done.
Soldier.
We get to see him grow up, and we get to see him be programmed to be a soldier. We have a title.
And then Colonel Meekum shows up and tells Captain Church that these soldiers are obsolete.
Colonel Lucius Malfoy has his great new genetically altered series of soldiers who represent the new paradigm.
They're stronger, they're faster, they're more aggressive.
K607 forward. Sir! 15 miles, 607 on the run. You've got 60 minutes. Go.
So Kurt Russell loses every test they put at him to the new guy. And they just discard all of their old soldiers. They're just, bye. You're nothing now.
Yeah, 3 of them, they think, 3 die in the testing, and so they throw them on top of slag and fly it off planet and dump it on a trash planet.
But Todd was still alive, unbeknownst to them. So Todd finds people.
Yep, there are people living on Arcadia 234.
Which is a trash dump. It is literally a dump.
Yep, it's a trash planet. Please do not pay attention to the fact that space is infinite, and there is no reason to have ships break Atmo, dump off cargo, and leave Atmo, spending all that power on that.
Especially when you could just hurl it into the sun.
Yes. Please don't pay attention to that.
Don't worry about it. Movie has to happen.
Yeah. Some townsfolk bring him in, and he learns from them, and they learn from him, and then they kick him out because they're afraid of him. And we'll talk more about that later. Colonel Meekum, along with the new genetically engineered guys, end up on Arcadia 234 during a regular security sweep and decide to take the town and raise it. They're hostiles.
Why they didn't do this when they were just there?
Well, that wasn't during the security sweep.
Okay, fine.
Because movie.
Because movie.
Yeah, and then
It gives us just enough time for the real movie to happen.
yeah.
The movie plays a really neat trick on you right from the start, where you're shown the horror of raising somebody to be a soldier, like from infancy.
Yeah, where they show him, they're doing the Hogan's Alley,
Right.
Gang members and ladies holding babies, and he just blasts through an innocent to get a guy with a grenade.
As you do.
Yeah, and
I guess, the message there is he doesn't care about life. He doesn't value it. He has no use for it. He doesn't understand it.
he follows orders, and he
follows
is a
orders.
soldier.
Yep, and that guy had a grenade that would kill way more people than that one lady. So sure, but the movie, he's our monster. He's our monster. Because we're given right from the start a new monster that's even worse, played by the only person of color in the movie. I'll probably get back to that later. Who's just better than him and more monstrous than him and scary, and because science. Science has been the bad guy in movies forever. Godzilla.
Yeah. Strange how Japan has a weird relationship with radioactivity. Wonder if there's some traumatic event in their past that would cause that.
So we paint these horrible things, these awful child soldiers, as the sympathetic force, because scary made-in-a-lab soldiers are worse.
Yeah.
So he's our guy, but the movie never treats him like he's not a threat.
Yeah, the movie never does the Terminator 2 thing where he, is ordered not to kill and he gets humanized and he learns to care. Like, the movie never does that. It never gives the audience a chance to go, "Aw, that's so sad."
Right.
It's like, "Ooh, you are not okay in the head."
Yeah. So it's super interesting because Kurt Russell has like no lines in this movie.
104 words
Yeah.
in the entire movie, of which about 25% are "sir," ending the sentence. Colonel Meekum and his super soldiers, including Kane, and it's super not accidental that the brother of the soldier, Kane and Abel, Kane slays his older brother because he is jealous. Like, it's...
Gary Busey's character is named Church.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, guys.
I mean, it's sci-fi parable, and you're gonna have on-the-nose character names. It's not Chuck Noland from Castaway.
Hero protagonist.
The bad guy soldiers show up. They kill a couple of people, including the mayor. We'll talk about that in just a minute. And then Todd decides soldiers deserve soldiers and kills all of them in a slasher movie level horror. Like, you see echoes of how Resident Evil would be shot in the future by Paul W.S. Anderson in this murder trap.
He murders.
Yeah, he doesn't just kill, he murders.
And murders.
Yeah, he takes out 17 people.
And murders.
Retreat!
Just...
So that's super interesting to me that we spend the entire first part of the movie, it's three acts. The entire third act is an extended action sequence that seems to be what people thought they were paying for before for this.
But it doesn't feel good because you're watching him fall away from the humanity that he fought to earn in the first two acts.
Totally!
And in the end, he saves the day and helps the village.
Colonel Lucius Malfoy is going to nuke the planet because come on, man, it's Lucius Malfoy. So he decides to use a planet killer. So Todd gathers the remaining the surviving members of this town that he found, who were the survivors of a crash. They weren't supposed to be there, but they found it. They made a community, and he gets all of them and he finds them a new home. End of movie. It's a really simple story, but the complexities are everywhere.
So I want to talk about Paul W.S. Anderson.
Yes.
Because there are people who are auteurs, people who make movies that are about stuff. You got people like Spike Lee, who makes movies about race that are full of meaning, and they have just as much stock caricatures as this movie does. Colonel Meekum is not a good character.
No.
Like, a good realized character. He's obviously the bad guy.
He didn't need to be. He needed to have a good performance behind him, and he did, so that was enough. Sometimes doing... complex is difficult, yes. But simple is harder. Pixar has made a whole slew of movies that are very, very simple stories, but they did everything right. So that's hard to do. That is almost impossible to do. So it is way harder to release as say, a musician, a 3-minute cut that's catchy that everybody loves. You know, music snobs are like, it's so easy to write a pop hit. And it's like, okay, then go do that.
Yeah.
Why are you not a millionaire then?
So you have auteurs like Spike Lee, like Steven Spielberg, who make big, important movies that are dramas, like Lincoln and Schindler's List and Do the Right Thing. And then you have Paul W.S. Anderson, who has previously made Mortal Kombat, which I maintain is actually really great.
It did exactly what it set out to do.
Yeah, it is what it says on the tin.
Sorry.
You know, and Event Horizon, which is a monster, a haunted house in space, which works. And then this, and then Death Race, which is also about something and has machine guns and chicks in low-rise jeans.
Sure.
So there is a school of film critique that says there is vulgar auteurs who make movies that are about stuff, the same as your Spike Lees and Steven Spielbergs, but do it in genre movies, like RoboCop. It's a robot cop.
A robot renegade cop.
But it's also way about stuff. And Paul Verhoeven is a genius. Starship Troopers is way about something, and it also has giant bugs and space marines.
But, unlike, say, the second two Matrix movies, all of those explorations of themes are hung on top of a solid, normal story.
Mm-hmm.
It's
samurai comes to town and protects the people.
Yeah. So the first Matrix movie had tons and tons of philosophy underneath it. Once you really got down to it, people have written books and books and books. And when they made sequels, they brought those up to the surface, and the movies suffered because they weren't A to B to C to D movie over. It was all this meandering Tristram Shandy-ish kind of. It's difficult to do, and so just doing a simple thing well is almost impossible. But then to have it be about something too. I think this movie's great. This movie, I was shocked at how good it was and how nobody had seen it and how I had never heard of it.
Yeah, it made $14 million on a $60 million budget. And it's all on the screen, the matte paintings.
The matte paintings are so good.
Here's one. Here's another one. Unbelievable. We don't see matte paintings like that anymore. And when explosions do happen, they have weight.
The camera shakes.
Yeah.
That's one thing I've noticed about modern movies is when we see a big CGI explosion, everything's perfectly flat. And nothing happens at all. But here, it's an explosion, so the guy behind the camera, there was an explosion there, so he shakes a little bit.
He's probably a little scared of the boom.
Probably.
Because the pyro guy doesn't tell him when he's going to hit the switch.
So good.
But let's talk about the themes that are there, or at least the ones that we have divined. You know, I'm not totally into Death of the Author, but there are themes that exist. PTSD, war is hell. This movie, when we talk about it shouldn't exist, it was made in 1998. Well, it was made in 97, came out in 98.
This movie would have been a huge hit in 2008 or 1988, but in 1998 it sat between two eras where it would work perfectly well for what it is.
Yeah, if this was released in 2008, you'd have soldiers coming back from Iraq who'd seen and done horrible things, and this would have connected with them, I think, as like, you are more than what you've been forced to become. And that's a really powerful message that just did not land with 1998, because that is, you know, right in where like True Lies and Demolition Man and like action movies are.
Mm-hmm. Not meditative think pieces on PTSD.
Yeah, it goes like Deer Hunter and then nothing for 20 years.
Yeah.
You know?
Because so much of everything, you know, even in that era, you know, we had people coming back from the first Gulf War with Gulf War syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
But PTSD was still called shell-shocked, you know, and people just, their response to it would be, man up, pussy! So to see an action hero who, you know, the moment that he's humanized in this story is when he's kicked out of his town. He cries.
Yeah.
And that sounds schmaltzy as hell. That sounds like, oh, the big tough man cried his man tears, and now we're on his side. But it worked!
Yeah, he didn't cry. He didn't cry when he was forced to watch dogs murder a hog.
No.
He didn't cry when his buddy in the, you know, camp platoon couldn't keep up and got shot. Just got gassed.
He didn't cry when he got kicked out of the only thing he had ever known.
Yeah.
When he got obsoleted and dumped in a dump.
Yeah. As trash.
As trash. He didn't cry then, but he forged connections when he was in the town. The linchpin of that is a child.
Nathan.
Nathan looks at him. As if he's not what he is. Everybody else is jumpy around him and very scared of him. Justifiably so. He's a monster!
Yeah.
And the kid doesn't know any better. So he looks at him.
The kid was born and grew up in a Irish village.
Why are poor people having a party in movies always Irish?
But yeah, the kid has known nothing but living in this idyllic, poor people town, and this is just another guy, just a guy he hasn't seen before.
So that's his first connection with other people, not as colleagues, not as combatants, enemies. He sees this kid, and it's a really understated relationship between them. They don't talk like at all, but they look at each other a lot. Mm-hmm. And at one point, this is the linchpin of why he gets booted from the town, there are the poisonous snakes. Now, there's a metaphor there.
Yeah.
The first shot we see of green in the movie, of anything clean and good and life-giving, there is a literal snake in the grass.
Yeah, the town has a little farm going with some green stuff, and a green snake is slithering through it.
There is a dangerous thing that looks vaguely like everything around it that... I liked it.
Yeah.
I thought it was great.
Yeah.
So...
Paul W.S. Anderson he makes really schlocky genre films.
Yeah.
But he's not stupid.
No.
He's not bad at this.
No. And that could have been overwrought. Because there is a moment that is overwrought, and that's what drives the story forward.
They probably wouldn't kill someone your size, but someone smaller.
Like me or my son.
Yeah.
Remember this for later!
Yeah.
That was a little like, dude, you have loaded Chekhov's snake pretty bad. But the linchpin of this story is, at one point, the snake there's a snake in the kid's house, and that's where Todd is staying. He forges a relationship with Sean Pertwee's character, who's the matriarch of this family. You got,
Mace and Sandra.
Yeah. And, he's kind of their pet PTSD-laden war criminal.
Yeah.
And...
As you do.
Like you do. There's a moment where the kid is about to get bit by a snake, and Todd throws his shoe at him.
And mimed with his shoe, like, stop him, stop the snake. Kill the snake and protect yourself.
It's interesting, because we're led to think, like, oh, he's just trying to teach him to be self-sufficient. But then, where would that stop? Would he, start putting a gun in his hand?
Yeah, here, do push-ups with me. Work and become a soldier.
And the film lets us be uneasy with that. Mm-hmm. It doesn't fall on one side or the other. It seems like once we get to the point where, okay, he's been kicked out, he cries, oh, they don't even want to kick him out.
Yeah.
They feel super bad about it.
The thing is, it's a super easy trope, especially in all your lone samurai comes to town parables, where they're like, you're unfit to live with us, get out, we're scared of you.
Yeah.
And it's this very Frankenstein-like moment where...
But the opposite.
No one here has any animosity towards you, Sergeant. None of us here is your enemy. Furthermore, we respect your qualities. We have no doubt that you are a very, very good soldier. But because of your training, we don't think you'll ever be able to function in a group like this, a community of families, of children, where the ability to fight is not the sole purpose of existence.
Yeah, this is the opposite.
It's they have the pitchforks moment, because he at one point hauls off and beats the crap out of Michael Chiklis. In the middle of a
flashback.
PTSD flashback.
Yeah, in fact, he's working out by punching a metal can until his hands are bloody.
But he sees it. He like nobody stops him. He stops himself. He comes to.
Yeah.
And that's a super important moment, because otherwise, we as viewers are like, fuck that guy. We needed to see that he's a victim of this. He's not.
Right, but he's learned to control himself and is starting to claw back from soldier mentality. And the town is like, nope, that's a bridge too far.
You're different from us, Sergeant. We don't hate you for that. But we have agreed that to try to include you would pose an intolerable risk to the community itself.
So they don't even, they with empathy, say, we're really sorry, but you're dangerous, and if you need, and this is the important part, if you need anything.
If you need us, you can ask us for help.
They don't have the Frankenstein moment. They don't come to him with pitchforks. They give him supplies and wish him well.
Yeah, and they basically explain to him that there's no need for soldiers. There's 120 of us and we're all happy.
Yeah.
We don't have crime, we don't have war, we don't need soldiers.
So this is where the film's message gets muddied a bit, and this is the thing, one of two big criticisms I have about this movie. One, it is a white fucking movie. Everybody in this movie is white, there's one person of color in this movie, and it's the bad guy.
It is egalitarian.
So, but I want to talk about one thing about that, though, is when I level that criticism, generally speaking, the response I get is, oh, you just want him to check people in a box and check, oh, okay, we got a black guy, do we have an Asian guy, and I feel that's a really reductive argument, because really the problem is it's hard for people of color to get work in movies, and so, no, you don't want to just check boxes, but it does mean something that everybody in this movie is white. I don't necessarily think that the one person of color being the only bad guy in the movie was anything beyond...
He's a martial artist.
He's a martial artist and he's awesome. But that does send a message. When I level that criticism, I don't think there's somebody going, I don't want any brown people in this movie. It's systemic, and you don't realize you're doing it when you do it.
Right.
It's somebody in the casting chair going, this guy, I empathize with him for some reason, not realizing that, oh, it's probably because he looks a lot like you. Mm-hmm. He or she reminds you of you or somebody you grew up around.
Yep.
And that's how it happens. It doesn't happen on purpose. I mean, I'm sure it fucking happens on purpose, but it doesn't always happen on purpose. It mostly happens because nobody's asking those questions. Nobody's saying, hey, at no point did somebody look at the cast list and go, this is an awful lot of fucking white people, or care.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's something to note. It doesn't mean this movie's bad. It's just something that needs to be said. Somebody should ask that question. So my second criticism is that this movie undermines itself by having the third act that it does. The third act is a guy murdering and murdering and murdering, and this is the fun action schlock that we were all promised in the trailer that we waited and get till the very end of the movie. And I don't know what it's saying then. Because it says like...
I have a theory about that.
Okay.
So, in the beginning of the movie, when we get the Todd growing up sequence, we show him assaulting. He was there for the coup in Bolivia and the Tannhauser Gate offensive and the war and Shanghai War. And all those places, he is going and fighting someone else over there. And doing a great job. He kills everyone.
And following orders.
And following orders. And at the end of the movie, he decides to defend. For the first time, he's defending people. And he has actually shown after the Hogan's Alley gun thing, he does that in real life. He just blasts through a little old lady to shoot at a storm guy.
Does he?
Yeah, in the battle in Russia. He shoots a lady, shoots right through her to shoot the bad guy.
God.
Yeah.
So at the beginning of the movie,
yeah,
not the end of the movie, not in the last act.
Yeah, so
in the last act, he's been human. He's seen humanity. He's been...
Yeah, and he has something to fight for.
He's grown.
Yeah, and we show in the beginning of the movie he is no match for Kane.
None.
Kane just obliterates him.
Clowns him.
Yeah, clowns him. At one point they send Todd and Kane up these awesome chains, and they're like, well, let's have them fight. And Colonel Meekum says, no, it wouldn't be fair. Send two more of your dudes.
My daddy was in maintenance.
And they send two more dudes up the chain, and Kane clowns on all of them. And then at the end of the movie, spoiler, Todd beats Kane, and he does it because he's fighting for something. There are literal women and children scampering by behind him.
So strength comes from family.
Community, it's a better word.
That's nice. That's a nice little piece of business on a movie that should be way dumber than it is.
Yeah, it should. I don't know where those laser ships in space came from.
No, nothing in the trailer.
The skull astronaut.
Not in the movie, not at all. Can we talk about how most of this movie exists dialogue free?
Yeah.
Shocking swaths of this movie are told in looks. This is my favorite thing, and I mentioned it in the analysis of Mad Max Fury Road, that the relationship between Max and Furiosa is built up entirely just through significant looks. And this movie uses Paul W.S. Anderson, that was his hammer, so every problem became a nail.
Yeah.
It was so good!
And the funniest, the only gag in the movie is there is no word punchline. It's just the look.
There's a guy in the movie who questions whether or not Todd should be in the community, why he's there, are you derelict of duty, what are you doing here, and is just the openly naked hate guy. And there's only one. You'd think it'd be all the town, but they were all pretty cool. Even the mayor was cool. Which it'd be really easy to have the hateful female misandrist mayor just, that man needs to go, and they way didn't do that. So the only guy that doesn't like him later on, he saves his life, and this happens.
You need any help, partner? Okay.
So, before this point, we're doing looks for drama.
Right.
And he goes, oh, you know what else I can do? I can do that same look for comedy.
Yeah. And it works.
It totally works. But the whole relationship that he has with Sean Pertwee's wife, I don't know. Sandra, thank you. The mother of
Nathan.
Nathan. You're so much better at this than me.
I have. I'm blowing up. It's all.
The film kind of teases a relationship between them.
Yeah,
he's never been around a woman before. Like, you'd think a soldier would go on shore leave.
Yeah.
But this is not a soldier. This is a machine. This is somebody who was created to do one thing, and you picture him like when he's not active, they just put him in a crate.
Yeah, well, that's how they show him. They live in this steel box until they go out on missions, and when they go on missions, they shoot stuff. They don't relax. They don't have downtime. And the thing that gets me, the first time we see any color on the planet at all, not just even before the green section, the very first piece of color is the first time we see Sandra. She's in front of these like plastic cells they've taped up to a porthole to give some semblance of color. And she is basically standing in front of a stained glass window.
Yes.
Like you would do to a saint.
So let's talk about what a lesser movie would do with this. The patriarch of the family dies, and in a lesser movie, since we've already teased with a scene where...
Yeah, there's a lot of long glances between the two.
And he male gazes the shit out of her boobs.
Who'd want to fight for a godforsaken place like this?
But even that isn't like...
It's like he's never...
The PCU Revenge of the Nerds, like, up and down. It's him looking mostly confused, like he's never been horny before.
Or just he's never been around a woman who wasn't either...
A commanding officer, a fellow soldier.
A civilian who he's trying not to shoot or needs to shoot through.
Yeah, so the film teases this for a little bit, and then it doesn't happen!
Yeah!
Wonderfully and beautifully! It doesn't happen. It doesn't... A lesser movie would have him supplant Sean Pertwee's character.
Yeah, they would paint Mace as this, like, effete, weak guy who isn't a soldier, and then he dies because he's weak.
Yeah.
And the soldier comes in and gives some good dick to Sandra. Yeah, and...
That way didn't happen.
Yeah.
Good for you, movie!
The other thing that doesn't happen, we learn that Nathan, the child, was bitten by one of these green snakes, and he lost his voice. He got real ill from the venom and couldn't speak anymore. In the whole movie, he doesn't speak. And at the end of the movie, there's this super, super saccharine, like almost over-the-top scene.
A little bit.
Where the kid is walking towards the cockpit where Todd is and goes, meh. And Todd picks him up, and it would be super easy for the kid to go like, are we home now? And it's the first line he says in the movie, and everyone goes, oh, the power of murdering people cured this kid. And they don't do that. He still can't talk. His vocal cords were destroyed by venom, and he can't talk.
Yeah. So it did that thing I don't like, which is what I made fun of again in the Mad Max review of like, he took power back by kicking more ass than the other guy, except he didn't. This movie, that did happen. That is literally what happened. Murder Man murdered a lot.
Murdered better.
Murdered better. But if you're gonna, I don't expect every movie to be 100% in line with things I believe. Nor do I expect movies not to have action in them.
Yeah, especially when they are billed the way this movie was. With Rob Zombie's more human than human playing over the trailer, which we can't show you.
Well, we'll see if YouTube takes it down.
Yeah. Let's talk briefly about visual motifs. We talked about this movie is gorgeous.
It is.
It's all these like super cold metal scenes at the beginning and with Colonel Meekum and these warm orange family tones that slowly grow to have more color in them as Todd becomes more involved in the town.
This isn't I Know Who Killed Me.
Yeah. Oh.
Which just uses blue and orange for no reason all the time.
And without any consistency.
Without any consistency or knowing what these colors are supposed to represent. The color in this movie means stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Great!
Yeah, and this movie is big on using every camera trick. There's a lens cover when they spin around young Todd to old Todd.
It's a great old-fashioned effect.
Yeah.
Another old-fashioned effect, the Zoptic effect. This was
they use a push-pull.
Invented by Alfred Hitchcock for Vertigo, where you either dolly the camera in or out while zooming in the opposite direction, so that the person standing in front of the camera remains still, but the background just goes apeshit.
There's a smash cut where a piece of debris during a haboob. Haboob. That's your word of the day, kids.
What is a haboob?
It's a sandstorm that creates a wall effect because it's on the ground instead of in the sky.
Neat.
Yes.
Second word of the day, defenestrated.
Yes. But,
With a rocket launcher. What an inefficient use of a whole rocket. There's 3 guys attacking the town, and I have a whole rocket. I'm just going to launch this guy out the window and blow him up. This could kill 50 people. I'll kill one dude with it.
This movie, because it's so gorgeous, because it uses color so well, it also doesn't really have a score.
No.
There's only a couple scenes that actually use music.
Oh my god, I gotta talk about this. So, out of nowhere, in your movie that was sold as this...
Kurt Russell.
We cut to this. McKinnett song that is used on a meditative kind of treatise of what it is to grow into something new.
Yeah,
from soldierhood to personhood. And Lorena McKinnett is singing it. Lorena McKinnett, for those who don't know, is up there with like Enya. Like it's new agey.
This is crystal harmonizing music.
Yeah, this is something that plays when you're getting a massage. The song was called Night Ride Across the Caucasus. I've been to a Lorena McKinnett concert. I do not have any problem admitting that. Her fiddler player was fantastic, and she is transcendent. I am a huge fan. Lorena McKinnett's biggest song was The Mummer's Dance, which was used as the theme song for, like, Ever After. You know? It's something that belongs in over the credits of Lord of the Rings, not...
When in the springtime of the year, when the trees are crowned with leaves.
Soldier! But here we are! Paul Anderson was taking chances, and good for him, dude. I marked out. I freaked out at how great that was. Just like, oh, fucking Lorena McKinnon out of goddamn nowhere. Soldier.
This movie shouldn't exist.
No.
It's a 15-year-old script that was a Blade Runner spin-off. Written by the guy who wrote Unforgiven, given to the guy who made Mortal Kombat.
Who shot it with no CGI, or very little CGI.
Yeah, the snake is the only thing that really stood out as CGI.
Years after Jurassic Park, Terminator 2.
Yeah.
Again, it looked like, when you showed me this movie, I thought, this is what, like 88, 89? 98! What?
Yep.
10% on Rotten Tomatoes!
Seriously, check it out. It is meditative.
I love how we're not even treating the audience as if they've seen it.
Yeah, you haven't.
You have not seen this movie. There is no chance you've seen this movie. I dare you to tell me you have seen this movie before this moment.
It's meditative and ruminative and is about something big. And it is good on purpose. It is not Con Air.
No. Con Air, yeah, and you and I go back and forth on this because
I love Con Air.
You can't wrap your head around something. I say Con Air is a huge piece of shit, and I love it. And that baffles you. You go, but if you love it, it can't be a piece of shit. And I disagree. I think I love lots of things that are bad. Con Air was good on accident. It did not succeed at what it tried to do. Con Air is a movie that is up there with, like, The Room, as succeeding in ways it didn't try to succeed.
Yeah, Con Air, everyone just looked at it, went, all right, so I'm swinging a lead pipe at one of the most esteemed actors of stage and screen in the last 20 years. Let's go.
The only person who didn't know that Con Air was a huge piece of shit was the director. Everybody else was like, I'm gonna have fun. This movie's a turd. I am gonna choose scenery all over this piece. Let's do this! And they all had fun, and that's one of the reasons the movie worked. This movie would be better off if it was good on accident. But it was good on purpose. It succeeded in doing what it set out to do, and what it set out to do was not something people were ready for. Is you do a meditative treatise on PTSD and belonging and community, and in a contemporary setting.
Yeah,
you don't do that in a genre picture.
Yeah, this should be Bradley Cooper Oscar bait.
And then would be.
Yeah, but they decided to go genre sci-fi.
So who's it for? It's not for the action people. They showed up and they wanted cool space battles.
And they got 25 seconds of it. And then an hour of sitting and staring into the middle distance.
100% of the space in this movie is in the trailer.
Yeah.
100% of the space that's behind us is because Dell insisted that if he was going to be on my show, we be in space.
I demanded it. I've never been to space.
Neither have I.
Well, now we have.
It just looks green to me. And it's not for people looking for that thoughtful movie that we got either. Because
there are space
an hour and 2 minutes into this movie, Sean Pertwee's character has died. Mm-hmm. And when he died, that movie died. That movie stopped being this movie. And that's the movie I liked. That's the movie I was fascinated by. That's the movie that was riveting to me. When I was a kid and I needed to go to the bathroom during a movie, I'd wait for one of the boring talky parts.
Mm-hmm. And now that I'm an adult, when the laser fights happen.
Now that I'm an adult, when people are just shooting each other all over the place, I'm like, all right, I'll check out until something interesting happens. Okay, I'll go to the bathroom now. When Superman is in his 44th minute of punching Zod through a building, I'm like, yeah, I gotta go.
I get it.
So this movie, the last parts of it, they were fine.
It was shot like a slasher.
It was.
It was Kurt Russell was not doing the things he did in the beginning where he just walked in a straight line. Ba, 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 ba.
Predator does the same thing.
Yeah.
What if there was a slasher movie where everybody was an action hero?
Well, it also shows that he can't use the tactics of superior force because he doesn't have it anymore, and he has to become part of the world. He becomes part of a wall. He sets traps and does all the things you need to do to defeat a superior force using guerrilla warfare, which he was super not versed in.
No.
Because he was a traditional soldier. So it's another moment of growth where he comes at them from an angle that he shouldn't have access to, but he has because he's grown. This movie's so good on purpose.
Things are happening in it, which
Yeah.
is more than I expect from movies like this, especially movies where big guys are mad about stuff. But that's what's interesting is that he's not mad.
No, he almost never shows any emotion.
No. And Kurt Russell plays this to he could have played this to the cheap seats, but all of his acting was so small. It was all, he looked kind of scared.
Yeah, there
is a moment where he says, somebody asks him, what's her name?
Sandra.
Sandra asks him, what do you feel? What is it like to be you?
And he just stares at her. He doesn't answer. And she keeps talking. And she's like, because you are a soldier. And he just stares at her while she's like hanging up laundry. And then as almost to the very last second, just before she leaves, he goes,
Fear.
Fear and discipline.
She hugs him.
Yeah, and he freaks.
He doesn't know what to do with
it. It's like, my arms are restrained. I can't snap a neck right now. I don't know what to do.
Yeah. It also would have been cool, easy to play this movie like, I keep going back to Fury Road, but like Fury Road did with the toxic masculinity angle.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't. It didn't. It went with the dehumanization angle. It went with, you're not a person, you're a thing.
And they literally call them property at one point.
Yep. And that's a theme that I've seen explored through every avenue, mostly through minority groups, which is a term I don't like, but there isn't a better one, because added all together, they're not the minority. But with marginalized groups, it's you're not a person, you're a thing, we're going to treat you like a thing. So you'd think that my Captain Social Justice, who has the name in the title of the show, would hate something that took a white man and went, look how dehumanized white men can be. Because I don't think this movie is talking about white men. I think this movie is talking about soldiers.
Hence the name.
It's in the title, and soldiers do have that. That is a thing. This would be a very different movie with a very different message if he was, say, a black man. But that's not the story it was telling. And if it were to put a black man in that story,
I think it would change a lot.
It would change a lot.
White townsfolk being afraid of him.
That's interesting. Does this...
I think he needs to look like them.
Does he have to be white?
He has to be the same race as the townsfolk.
Okay.
If the entire townsfolk were Asian and he was Asian,
right,
it'd be fine.
Interesting.
But he needs to look like them because, like with the snake, he is something that looks just like everything around him, who is super dangerous.
That's interesting. So he didn't necessarily have to be a white guy, but he had to look like the villagers.
Right.
Okay, fair. But that, it would change a lot about this movie to have him be a black man.
Yeah.
Ooh. Right now, white people get to be anything. There's like 8 black guys in movies. I don't mean actors, I mean characters. There's like 8 characters. 2 of them only say, oh, hell no!
Yeah, there's the Latin guy who's played Hector the Cholo for years, and that's just his thing.
That's his job.
When the ocean took and the birds anew, undressed in ribbons fair.
So, people of color and women get to be far fewer things than white people get to be.
This whole movie is completely brilliant, and it is a movie with a thing to say, and a director with the capability to say it, and also is about space marines in the future with battles off the Tannhauser Gates, and planet cracker nukes, and gene-spliced super soldiers, and Sean Pertwee getting blown up. And if that's not enough to make you see this movie, I don't know what will be. Oh, Gary Busey's in it. Oh, we forgot that Gary Busey's in it. At his Buseyest. Just teeth like chiclets. Soldier, 1998.
We don't have an ending for this episode.
I don't think that's a problem.
Should we just duck out of the frame line and crawl away?
I think we owe it to these people. They've stuck with us this long. We should actually sign off properly.
For Silver Justice Warriors, I'm Joe.
And I'm Del.
Thank you, everybody. Good night.